So here is another important thing in AWS, or a important service of AWS, which is known as VPC. That means Virtual Private Cloud. You can see this wholesome thing is the Virtual Private Cloud, and it is a service that is offered by Amazon Web Services, and it allows us to create a logically isolated section of the AWS cloud where we can launch our AWS instances and AWS resources in a network environment, and like it provides a way to build our own virtual network within the AWS cloud. So AWS cloud is a huge network, huge thing, and when we have to manage our application, like we need an application and we want to manage some like servers, and we need a network, like our own customized network, we can do it using this VPC. So it has some features or components, like you can see in our networking phase. We all know about IP addresses, subnets, route tables, and in VPC everything is there. So let's begin with the IP address range. So what is IP address range? So this is mainly while creating a VPC, you can define an IP address range using IPv4 CIDR notation, and this range divided into smaller subnets. That means this VPC is under a IP range. Like we can range is like 192.168.0.0 till 192.168.0.255. Like we can set a range for this whole network, and this range is divided or pieces into smaller subnets. Now comes like what is subnets. Subnets are mainly the subdivisions of the VPC's IP address range, as I said previously, and it can create public and private subnet. You can see there is a chunk of box which is public subnet, and there is another chunk which is private subnet, and each are associated with availability zone in AWS region. So in AWS region, there are availability zone, like this public subnet should be in a availability zone, and this private subnet should be in availability zone. So subnets are under the availability zone. And then comes the internet gateway. Like we are in a network, but how to get into this network? How we'll enter that network? It is through the internet gateway. We have internet in our phone, in our devices, but we don't know how to reach to our VPC. So how to reach to our VPC from the internet? We have to use that internet gateway. So it mainly provide access to the public internet for instances in public subnets. So it allows us to get inside this public subnet zone, and it can send and receive traffic directly to and from the internet via this internet gateway. And uh, like we have servers, we have web server of our EC2 instance, we have DB server for our EC2 instance. So should we expose our DB to everyone? No, we should not. This is not eligible for the security matter. So what we can do, we can expose our web server. We can see our front end, or these things are deployed in our web server or EC2 instances. So what should we do with the DB servers? So we should keep our DB servers in private subnet zone. Then from the internet, we can't access it directly. For accessing it, how we can do it using this private cloud or VPC, we can access it through this NAT gateway. That means the network address translation instance. This is mainly used for accessing this private one. So basically, from internet, we are accessing the public one through internet gateway, which is IZ. And from this public subnet, we can access the private subnet, that means DB and this kind of servers, through this NAT gateway. So NAT gateway is basically for the inbound traffic, and internet gateway is used for outbound traffic. And then come another thing, which is route table. So route table is mainly used for like associating this traffic. Like from where it is coming and from where it is going, all are written in the route table. Mainly route table contains routes for both local communication within the VPC and also the external communication through the internet gateway. So mainly in route table, all are written. And another thing is elastic IP, which is shown in the picture. Mainly it provides us a static public IP address that you can assign to the instances within this VPC. So to reach this VPC in the public subnet, we need some IP addresses. So it is allocated by this elastic IP. It will give some IP to these instances. So basically that's how a VPC works internally. Now we will check it out, that how our VPC is working or how to do the live deployment in VPC. But there will come another thing, which is Nginx. So let me show you Nginx a little bit. So basically, Nginx is an open source web server and it can be used for various purpose, and that's why, and it is very lightweight, and it is known for its high performance, stability, rich features, and for all of this it is very popular. And some of the key features of that is it is work as a web server and also can be used as a reverse proxy, and also it can be used for load balancing and for HTTP cache. One of the most important thing is load balancing, and Nginx can balance the load across multiple servers to optimize these resources utilization and maximum throughput, or reduce the latencies or ensure the high availability. All can be done using this, and various kind of algorithm are used for this load balancing. Like we have studied like the round robin or IP hash or list connection. All of these are applied for load balancing. So it is a very important web server, and we will be using this one for our deployment. So let's begin our hands-on. So here, first we'll create a VPC where there will be 6 subnets, 4 route tables, and IGW net using VPC wizard. And we'll edit the public subnets, and we'll create two EC2 servers for backend one and for frontend one. And we'll keep the frontend in a public subnet, and we'll keep the backend in a private subnet. And then we'll prepare the backend, then after that the frontend, and then we'll deploy one by one. So first we will deploy the backend, and then we'll deploy the front end. So let's create. I will go to my AWS account. Here, first we will go to the VPC because we have to create the network first before creating the instances. It will take a little bit time. So this is the VPC dashboard. Here first we have to click on create VPC button, and then we will create the VPC and more. Here already there is a name, which is project. We will change this name to ecom. And here you can see there is a IPv4 CIDR block, about which I was talking, that we have to assign an IP address range, which is known as CIDR block, IPv4 CIDR block. So I am giving IP address range is 192.168.0.0/16. So I am using this IP address range. Then we need to move a little bit below. Here our availability zone, number of availability zone will be 3, and we will Yes, the public subnet will be 3, the private subnet will be 3, and NAT gateway will be 1 in one availability zone. That means in one availability zone, there will be one NAT gateway. And the VPC endpoint, it will be none. Other things are okay. Let me check again. It is okay to go. So here you can see a preview of it. Like whenever we change the number, the preview will be changed. So here you can see our VPC name is ecom VPC, and from here we are creating 6 subnets. 3 is public, this 3 is public, and this 3 is private, and route table will be 4 for this, because for public there will be one public route table, and for private there will be separate 3 route table. And for network connection, like for internal connection and external connection, there will be one IGW and one NAT gateway. So that's all for this VPC. Let's create. It will take some time to create all the configuration. You can see the configuration and the details, like it is creating one by one the route table and the NAT gateway and the subnets. So one by one it is created, and now you can see there is success. So it is created successfully, and now if you click on view VPC, it will redirect to the VPC page. So the next thing we have to do is we have to change some settings of the public subnets. For that, we need to go the subnets part. But before that, you can review that your VPC is configured correctly or not. There is the resource map, and here is all the informations like CIDR block, DSCP option set, and state of this VPC which is available. So now I'll go to the subnet part. Here I will reload it again. So when I reload it, you can see there are some more subnets. 3 are public and 3 are private. So we have to change all of them, like the public one. So first we will click on the public subnet 1, and in the right section here is a drop down box called actions, and if you click on it, you will get a edit subnet settings. Now I'm clicking on it. Here, we need to enable the auto assign public IPv4 address. Otherwise, it won't assign a public IPv4. That it will be a trouble for us. That's why we need to enable auto assign public IPv4 address. Now we'll click on the save button. So it is changed. Now we have to do it for other public subnets. So now I'm clicking it and doing it. So my subnet configuration is done. So VPC part is done for now. Now we have to create the EC2 instances. So that for that we need to go to our EC2 instance page. Here is our instances. Now click on the launch instance button. Now I am naming as ecom frontend Ubuntu, and here I will choose T2 medium, and then I'll create a new key pair. We can use the previous one, but I just want to create new one for this VPC server. And here I will edit some settings. First one we have to do is we have to choose our VPC. So how we can create the EC2 under a VPC? As in the picture we saw that there is instances inside the VPC. That's why first we have to create the VPC. That means our network. And then we need to choose this one. So I'm choosing the ecom VPC. So the instance will be created under this VPC. And from subnet section, we need to choose the ecom subnet public one. So it is already selected. So I'm not able to. I don't need to change it. And further, auto assign public will be available, and we'll create a security group. I'm just naming its name, front end SG. Let's name it. And here I will allow all traffic from anywhere, and I'll choose 30 GB configuration. That will be enough for our application. So that's all for this. Let's hit the button launch instance. Go back to the list. You can see our new server here. Ecom frontend pending. In the meantime, we need to create another instance for the backend. So here we are using backend and frontend separately. So first we created the frontend server. Now we're creating the backend server. So let's name it ecom backend. And the image will be Ubuntu. And here the configuration for this will be T2 medium. And we can use the previously created key pair. And in the network settings, we'll edit some configurations. First, we need to choose the ecom VPC. Then here, our backend won't be available in as a public subnet. So it won't be in the public subnet zone. It will be in private, because we don't need to expose our public subnets, our backend application to the external world. So we are keeping it in the private subnet zone. So from here, I'll choose the private one. And auto assign public IP will be disabled. So it won't assign any public IP. It will have one private IP. And for firewall, where we will be using the existing one. So here we can choose like which we have created for the previous instance, which is frontend SG. We are choosing this one. I'll be using 30 GB. Okay, it is good to go. Now I'm clicking the launch instance button. Now go back to the instance list. Okay, now we can see that we have two servers. One is ecom frontend and another one is ecom backend. So the rule of deployment is to deploy the backend first. But here in the backend, there is no public IPv4 address as we keep it in the private subnet. So there won't be any public IPv4 address. There is private IPv4 address. So we can't access it through SSH or through mobile stamp directly. So what we have to do first, we have to enter in our front-end server. So I'm just copying the public IPv4 address of it and I'm creating a new server. So this is my .pem file. Okay. Okay. Now we are in our front-end server. So let's clear the terminal first. So we have to access to our backend to configure the backend first. So now I'll go to my download folder where the .pem file is located and I'll be opening it using a notepad. So this is what is written inside that .pem file. There is a RSA private key. I'll copy all of it. Now I'll go back to my server again. Here we will create a key file for accessing our private server, which our backend server, which is in the private subnet zone. So let's create one vim key.pem. So we are creating a .pem file, and here we will go to the insert mode and we will paste all the RSA key which we have just copied. So let's save it. Okay, we have saved it. Now we can check it that it is there or not. Yes, that file is there. Now we need to chmod. We need to give permission key.pem. And now we'll copy our backend server private IP address. So let's go to the server, copying it. And now I'll SSH into that server. So SSH -i and the .pem file name, which key.pem, and then Ubuntu @ the backend IP. So here I'm SSHing it with this file where the RSA key is written, and this is the server IP address. Write down yes. So you can see now we have entered into a new server, which is our backend server. So previously the IP address of this server was IP 192.168.15.226, which was for the frontend one, and now it's changed to 192.168.136.95. That is for the backend one. Now, first thing first, we need to update all the packages in the server. So for that, we need to write this sudo apt update command. Okay, it is updated. Now we have to like generate a key, SSH key, because our this server does not have permission to download the file from the GitHub location. So we have to generate a key for that to access or for installing those. Sudo cat, and it will be available in this location. So I'm copying and pasting it. So this is the key. Let's copy it. And now I'll go back to my repository where my project is there. So let's add this. This is the settings where we can add. Now I'm clicking on new SSH key. Become VPC, let's name it, and like adding this. Okay, it is added. Now we can install the, we can download the ecom back. And I'm copying this, copying the SSH link. Now I'll go back to my terminal and here I'll clone it. Git clone. Yes. Now we'll check it is there or not. ls, yes, and the ecom back is there. Now I'll go back to this folder, cd ecom to back. So I am now inside that folder, the backend folder. And here we have to install the nvm as we see previously that how to install that nvm. Let's go to the nvm installation link. Let's just scroll it down a little bit. And here is the link. Let's copy it. And in the terminal, I'll paste it. Now, it provided me the nvm directory environment, the environment variable. So I'm just copying it and I have to paste it again. Okay, it is successfully pasted here. Now I need to install the nvm. So I'm installing nvm i14. Now we can check like it is installed successfully or not for that node-v or version. Anything we can write. And also we need to check the npm version. Yes, it is also there. So now we can install the npm. For that, the command is the npm install, or in shortcut we can just write I. It will also indicate the install. Okay, it is installed successfully. Now we need to run it. So for that, we have to start the node, start npm. Okay, it is started, and like previous, it is served on the 5000 port. So let's go back to the 5000 port. So it won't appear currently because there is a thing that we didn't served it in a public subnet, so we won't be able to access that as we used a private subnet, so it will be not accessible. But our database is connected and it is served on port 5000, so hopefully it is successfully running. So now we need to configure our front end. So for that I will open a new tab because we need to keep it running, we need to keep the backend running. So let me go back to my instance list. Here I will copy the IP address again, the front end IP address, and here I will open another session. And I'll be using the same key. Okay, it is there. First thing first, we need to like clone the application from Git. So let's go there. This is our front-end application. So let's clone it. Git clone. Okay, what it is saying, it is saying that permission denied for public key. So what we need to do, we need to generate another SSH key. So now we can see that why we need to do this. Previously, just one time we just configured the RSA and that works. Like we have just one time used that key. But now we have created two separate server. One is front end, one is back end. So for accessing or for cloning those repository, we need separate key. Previously, when I install here all of the things, it is installed in the backend server, not in the front end server. We just connect to the front end server, and by SSH from front end to backend, we reach that. But we are here, we are not in the front end server actually. We just connected to the backend through front end, and it is our main front end server. And here we cannot directly clone it because in this server we don't have access. So for that we need to generate the SSH key as like previous. So let's do it. SSH keygen and sudo cat in this location. Let's copy it. Need to add it in the settings. Ecom VPC front. So whenever we will be naming something, anything, the server, that might be server, that might be any SSH key, we need to give it a meaningful name for better understanding, or whenever our juniors will work under us, it will be easier for them to understand like what is it is using for. When he saw the name, he or she will be able to understand that it is using for VPC front end server. So we can't just name it like test 1, test 2, test 3. We won't do this. Always we will be trying to give it a meaningful name. Okay, now let's clone it again. Hit clone and then the link.
Can you make the fonts bigger, please?
Yes, sure. Is it okay now?
Better.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now if we ls again, we'll be able to see we have ecom2 now here. So we'll go to the folder cd ecom2. And here we don't have the nvm or node, anything here. So we need to install it again in this server. So let's go to the directory here. here is the nvm installation file located. Let's copy it and paste it. We'll be exporting this environment variable like previous. And then we need to install the we need to install the nvm. So let's write it down, nvm install 14. So yes, it is now there. So let me check the versions that it is correctly installed or not. So node v, though it is boring work to check the versions and these things, but we need to do it because after few steps forward, we can have any kind of issues for any anything installed unsuccessfully, then we might occur any error. So for our better deployment experience, we need to check every step that it is successfully installed or not, all my dependencies are there or not. So these things need to check in every step. Okay, I think I have installed everything. So now check how it looks. All the files are there or not. Yes, .env. Mhm. Next config. Okay, everything is there. Now I will edit my .env file because as previously I said, in this file the IP address of the backend or the connection of with the backend server is written on this file. So we need to edit this file. So for that I will enter into this file vim.env. Here there is already an IP. I need to change it. Go to the insert mode. So what should I give it now? Because we have two servers. Now we are not in the same server. We are in a different server. So it should be the backend server IP address. But backend server does not have any public IPv4 address. So we will put it down the private IPv4 address. So let's copy it and paste it here. So basically here we have to put down the IP address of the backend server. If the public one is available, we will put down the public one. But when we put it in another private subnet, there won't be any public IP address. So we need to give it here the private one. I think there is 2:. Let me check. There is 2:. One will be erasing. Okay, now it's done. Let's save it. Okay, now we'll build it. Let's see it is built successfully or not. npm run build. Okay, what it is saying, npm error, next not found. So let's check it out. We have missed something or not.
So basically, if you do not do the Dockerize based deployment, this kind of things you'll be doing. Okay, that exactly is going on. You have to do the same thing in the non-Dockerize the application hosting and deployment process. If you do the Dockerize, remember, Docker file takes care of everything else for you. And in a new machine, you do not need to repeat the same thing at all. So as you are saying, as we speak on the Docker and non-Docker, you are seeing the benefits and you can see the practical, the experience and example at the same time.
Okay, I think we have missed, or I have missed the npmi, that means npm installation, and now it is installing.
You did the NVM and you verified it, then you move to the another one. So NPM need to be installed on this front end. Okay, so it's good now.
Okay, now I will run the build, npm run build.
So development, build, deploy, test, and then release. So build, deploy, we can call it, right? In this test development stage, we call the build and deploy. In the production also we deploy, but we call the release kind of. Release means now the end user is getting it. So this type of the wording is a little bit like the very precise. The only the work people, the people who work in the industry, they know the meaning of each of the wording. Okay.
Okay, I think it is built successfully. So we need to check it, like it will create a .next file. So let's check it is there or not. Let's -a. So yes, there is .next file. So it is built successfully, hopefully. Now I can start the npm start. Okay, now I'll check that our front end is up or not. So let's copy the front end IP address. Let's browse it. So yes, our front end is up and running. So now you can say we are not able to see our images or anything. That means it is not connected to our backend, and it is that's how it won't be connected, because as I said, it is located in the private subnet. Our backend is located in the private subnet, so we can't like we can't entry to our private subnet through a private IP address. It is not possible. So in this situation, we need to use the Nginx. This kind of issues can be fixed with the Nginx, and we'll be using the reverse proxy service of the Nginx. So let's do it.
So give you a little bit back. So basically, we are introducing called the web server. So in the beginning, in the first one, we had a one server where we have the front end and back end on the same machine. This is the reason you and we all can access through the IP address. In the second scenario with the Docker Compose, Docker Swarm, we had the same scenario. On the same machine, we implemented everything else. So we can use, because the public IP we can use everywhere, no problem. In this case, now we are in the scaling situation. Scaling means our front end can be using 5,000 to the 5 million user, and the back end, of course, when the front end is getting hit, the back end will be used as well. So at this moment, one computer is not the solution. Okay, when one computer is not the solution, your code base in the front end in the different computers, the back end in the different computers, how they connect. When they're not in the same computer, they're not going to work anymore. Okay, they are not. So there is another software it's called the web server. So introducing the web server, what it does, the front end also connected to the web server, back end also connected to the web server. So in the front end, as a client, when I hit something, of course, I'm hitting the front end, the code base, it is actually coming to the web server now. It is not going to the back end anymore. It is because the front end is connected to the web server. Web server is connected with the back end. So web server is telling, while you got a request from your front end server, so it is going to the back end, and back ends means back end is many. Okay, because at this moment we are talking about the scaling, and backend actually the process, the logic, whatever the user is asking. Of course, if it is something need to store in the database, it will store, or it will just tell the web server, here is the response that your front end guy is looking for. And the web server is telling to the front end, here is the response that I give you. So what is happening here? So you're actually the isolating your backend completely different now. So it means even a hacker can never hack your system. Hacker will never know what is the backend system IP address because you put the web server is kind of your security server. You are maintaining the between the front and backend. You are putting a wall in between. So that's the web server. In the web server, there are multiple is super demandable. One is like the what is this called? I forgot. I don't know. The Nginx is one of the modern and robust and dynamic. Another is Apache Web Server. Apache Web Server is kind of the a PHP-based application, Java-based application. Apache is doing very well. In the Node.js React-based application of the modern, the web server is the Nginx. It is faster, it is robust. So in this situation, we're going to put the Nginx, mean the web server, and we have to connect both server so that it works. And when you put the web server, at this moment, you can have a many front-end computers. In the front-end server, you can have many back-end computers. They are all IP address connected on the where? On the web server. And when customer is requesting to the web server. They don't know the front end, they don't know the back end. They always know the web server IP address. Web server make the decision where the information goes. So now you are exactly in the scaling implementation. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we need to configure our Nginx now, and we'll see how reverse proxy work with it. So for that, first we need to stop what is running. So we are our front end is running. So let's press the Control C, it will be stopped. Now, after making stop, we need to edit something. I think you guys can remember that we have edited the .env file, .env. Now I'll go inside it again. Here we need to make some changes, like we need to erase the address from here. So if we put it blank, that what we will configure in the Nginx, it will be automatically set here. And now we have to clear it. Here only the API will be there. So /API, and the IP address will be removed. Now I will save this file. Okay, now I'll run npm run build. Again, we'll build this.
So anytime you make any changes, you have to build it. Okay, that's the process. If you did not build it, it will still use the old build, or it may not work.
Okay, it is done. So now I will start it again. npm start. Here I'll put an and. So now you can see that when I start the npm, I never put end, but now I am putting end. So there is a reason behind it, because when we write down the end after the start, following the start, then it when we press the Control C, it will be running in the background. It won't be stopped by just pressing Control C. So I want a running backend and also a running frontend. So our backend is running in the several server in another server. That's why we don't need to put any end here. But in the frontend server, I will be configuring the Nginx. So here I put end. So it started. Now if I press Ctrl C, like the previous one, it won't be stopped. It will be running in the backend. Now in this server, I will install the Nginx. So for that, the command is sudo apt install -y Nginx. Okay, now we need to check that it is successfully installed or not. For that, the command is sudo systemctl then status of Nginx. Now, if I hit enter, you can see it is active and running. So our Nginx is installed successfully. Now we can edit the Nginx configuration file by some command. We can write it down. That is sudo vim, and for Nginx, the configuration file is written on the sites enabled /default file. So I'll go to that location, which is located in etc Nginx sites enable folder, sites enable
So in Linux
folder.
operating system, all the configuration file stay under the etc directory. That's the any software you install. Here is we change the configuration. Any new software or operating system specific software all is stored in the /etc.
So here I'll remove all the configuration. We can edit that, but the file is too long. That's why I'm not editing it. I'm just writing it again. So I'm in the insert mode. Now I'll copy the configuration and I'll paste it here. Okay, this is my configuration. So what it says, first there is a server. Inside this server, there is the port number. Nginx default port number is 80. This is the default server port number, and the root file. The root file of Nginx is under this directory var www.html, and here there will be index.html, and this file, and there is server name. We are not editing it, and we need to allocate the location. So here, instead of that local host, we need to change this. So first one will be the local host one. This is not a problem. And the second one here we can see there is API/API. This is mainly like why we know that how to write down what will be there. So we just confront this to our developer that how they configured the APIs. So they ensured us that there are two APIs used. One is /API/API and another one is /API. So now we need to proxy pass with this API. So in the proxy pass section, you can see HTTP backend IP. So here we need to put our IP address, we need to replace this with our backend IP. So we need to remove this first.
So the AD is the HTTP protocol, the default, the port number. Of course, Nginx represent the web server. And then she said the location proxy pass the HTTP localhost. The reason she said it because on the front end server, she installed the web server with Nginx. That's the reason it can be localhost. If you have another server that where you install the Nginx, then you exactly have to pass the front end IP address. Remember I said it, the front and back end, they are all connect on the web server through the IP address. This is exactly is happening now. So she is passing one area is the front end server IP address, another area of the backend server IP address. So now the question is, if you have a lots of backend server, they will go the same way. If you have a lots of front end server, they will be the same way. Okay, and this is exactly the process.
If there was other APIs, then we will be inserting that one too. So it depends it depends on the application structure. So now I will save this file. Hope it works. If it is not work, let's see what happened.
So you have to start
And
the Nginx again. Once you make the
yes,
custom change, you have to start the server and the service itself. So to do this, you have to do the sudo systemctl is the command to run, start, stop, restart, enable, anything you have to do systemctl for the Ubuntu, and then your service name, then it should work.
okay, it is showing an error. Let me check this. Status nginx.service.
Do the journal CTL. Oh, it is running. Okay. There is a way if you can check if the configuration is working or not. Okay.
Okay, let me check. Systemctl restart nginx. Okay, there might be syntax errors in our configuration file. What can be caused for this error? So let's check it. Sudo nginx-t.
Yep. So it tells you what happened in the.
Okay, yes, unknown directive. Okay, enable configuration file test failed. Okay, let's check the file again. There might be any like indentation error or anything else. So let's check it out first that our file is correct or not. Let's check the configuration first. Correct the indentation.
Yeah, missing the.
Okay, what it said that your Nginx configuration file has some indentation error and missing proper formatting. So there might be formatting or space issue. So let's remove it and paste it again. Now let's check it out. Okay, now it restarted successfully. That means like how I am able to know? It happens a lot when we do any kind of deployment. There is indentation error, there is colon missing, or there is extra space. So in our like in when we copy anything from our slide or from notepad or any other sort of resources, there might be some extra spaces in the file. So in that case, I like to use ChatGPT because it helps me a lot to fix this kind of error. So now we have restarted it. Now let's check this out.
You guys should be able to access from your computer as well, by the way.
Mhm.
So you guys should be able to access from your computer too. Give a try.
Okay, now we can see our front end is running, but our back end is not running. So there might be any issue. So let's check it out. So let me check again. I have done everything properly or not. For that, we can use the history command that I have properly executed every steps or not. So I am checking it.
So can you go back to the back end?
Mhm. Yes,
Is it
backend is running.
up and running? Okay. So it's not able to
No,
connect.
it is from anything from the front end. Let me check the file again. Okay, now we can see it is coming. So it is just a silly one that I have here put the 4000 port. But as I mentioned previously that Nginx is running in port 80 in the configuration file, you can see that it was running in port 80. So I just typed 4000 port. So it is not getting the backend properly.
Because
So
if it is
yeah.
8, you don't need to type the port number. It will be automatically
It
work.
will it will be automatically work, yes. And if I erase it, just hit the IP address, you'll be able to see. Okay, I'm sharing in the chat box. You can check that out also. It is running from your end or not. I'm just giving the IP address.
And let's everybody use it so you guys will know. That's good for you. And 1 second. 1 second. Okay. So you guys need to let us know if things are working or not from your end. Okay, let me see. 1 second. Is everybody able to access now?
Vision was telling me that he's not able to, or they are not able to see the chat.
Now I should be able to.
Okay, now all of you can check.
Is able to access? Who is able to access? Yep, I'm able to access. I can see everything. I can log in. Sign in with Google. Register now. Sign in. Log in. Reset now. Get OTP. Yep. For me, it's clicking everything as expected. All right. So of course, now that your continuous the development will be happening the same approach. Dockerize, we discuss about the Dockerize approach, but on this one, all we just pull the code, pull the latest code, and if we need to change the environment, we can change the environment. Other than that, npm start. That's the manual approach. Docker approach is the build the Docker file and the push to the Docker hub, and then the pull to the environment, and then you just run it. In the Docker compose, again, you have to change each time the the build number, the version number, and then you will be able to run it. Docker Swarm, the same approach. You don't need to do anything, all you just need to run the Docker file. And scaling is the different thing. You'll be adding more and more nodes and joining the nodes into the Docker Swarm, and they'll be running. Okay, I can see what is the question. Yes, is working. Inbound is working. Jonathan, everybody is working. All right, this is good.